You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
For the community, by the community.
Celestial greetings. I'm Janet Booth, a professional astrologer from West Hartford, Connecticut, and welcome to my program on astrology called Looking Up. Today's episode is entitled The Roller Coaster of 2016, because I noticed as I was writing my 2016 Janet's Planets calendar that many times I was using that term, and I had to look it up and make sure if it was 2 words or 1 word, because I'm a perfectionist that way, and it's 2 words. You almost wish it was 2 4-letter words. No, but what does it mean? It means things go up, up, up really high, and then come down and dip and then up again and curve around. And, you know, we get on the roller coaster and we scream and, you know, we come off and we're breathless and then we go, wow, that was fun. Let's do it again. Well, some people, I will say, I've gotten off roller coasters and said, I'm never going on that one again. But I think that 2016 is going to have some roller coaster flavor to it. You know, we've got the long-term kind of battle of planets that are in 90-degree friction positions to one another, and we've had one of those been going on for years, and I talk about it every time. I'm not going to spend the whole show talking about that this time, Uranus square Pluto. But we also have as a major theme in 2016 another 90 degrees with Saturn and Neptune, and I mentioned that a little bit, I think maybe in the November show, because that first had its first time of exact 90 degrees right on Thanksgiving. And actually I was kind of braced for things to be a little worse in the world at the time than they seemed to be. So it wasn't like that Thanksgiving some years ago when we had the Mumbai horrible tragedy and stuff. But we've got a couple more occurrences of that in 2016, so that's sort of a theme for the year. And sometimes we talk about how there are 3 different classifications for the signs. Well, besides the 4 elements that everybody knows, fire, earth, air, water, and we're going to get into those in a moment. But there's 3 ways that we also classify the 12 signs. So with 4 times 3, there's 1 of each. Cardinal, the signs where the seasons start and they're action-oriented, and sometimes they mean confrontation. Well, they mean decision-making, okay? And then fixed, in the middle of the seasons, the sun goes through these different modes of signs during these seasons, like I'm mentioning. And those are kind of stand your ground, or stabilize, or continue with what's been going on. It's inertia. Hard to get things started, but once in motion, hard to stop them. And the 3rd type is called mutable, like sway, swerve, dodge, move, bend with the wind. So we've got these 90 degrees. 1 is cardinal, and 1 is mutable. And many times other planets come into play and make those 90 degrees into the T-square, which is even tougher. Or sometimes they make a whole cross, which is the toughest of all. That means that the signs in the fixed modes, and this would be Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, they don't have T-squares and grand crosses in 2016. Some of them have some other challenges. For instance, there's a Mercury retrograde in Taurus, but Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, They don't have those. So those are the 3 sign areas of the zodiac that are going to have sort of the easiest time in 2016. And that's not to say every single person listening to me who's a Leo or Leo rising is going to have a great year. But you have a better chance at it than some of the other signs, let's say that. And so if you're the type of person that you have your chart and you go and you look in your chart, look to see what you have in those signs of Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio, and see if you can't figure out some really good things to try to plan to do during 2016 to accentuate those planets in those parts of your chart. Now, I'll come back and talk about those elements for a moment, because I mentioned how Taurus, which is the Earth version of the fixed signs, has a Mercury retrograde. And actually, all of the Mercury retrogrades in 2016 are taking place in Earth signs, and pretty much in the second half of the Earth signs, from like right around the 15-degree mark to the end, like 29, something like that. So we start off with Capricorn in the winter, and that Mercury retrograde has Mercury joining up with Pluto 3 times, because Pluto is in the middle part of Capricorn now and just starting to head into the second half of Capricorn. So what does it mean when we have Pluto together with Mercury? Well, Mercury is the mind and it's the communication. Pluto is a planet of transformation. So people going through some evolution about their thinking, maybe twists and turns, maybe delving into the shadows, because Pluto is the lord of the underworld. And so it wants to have us look at the things that are out of the light, in the closet or secreted away. It's an important planet about confidentiality. So we may find a lot of discussion, you know, because Mercury retrograde back and forth, and we talk about it once, twice, 3 times, about secrets or about hidden things. And Pluto is also a planet about our shared resources, our the commodities, markets, economics, finances, money supply. So we're going to be looking at those a lot as well. And Mercury goes into the range that it's going to back up over starting December 19th. And it doesn't come out of that range until, I think it's February something. The 14th, Valentine's Day. The actual backup is the 5th to the 25th of January. Now, this is really easy to see. If you go to astrologybooth.com, you can download this bar chart called 2016 on a page. It's a free PDF, and it's going to give you the dates when all of the Mercury retrogrades are happening. Well, all of any planets retrograde. When do they stop? Called being on station, and they just hang out at the same degree for a while. You know, several days for a fast planet like Mercury, weeks for a slow planet like Pluto. And it shows you the degrees that the planets turn at. We also have here all the new and full moons and which ones are eclipses. So this is a very handy page to have. And if you're going to be getting my 2016 Janet's Planets, I hope you will. It's digital in all kinds of formats, but it does not include the 2016 on a page, so you just download that straight off the website, and then you'll have that handy. I just keep an extra copy in my purse because, you know, I want to look these things up when I'm like making doctor's appointments and stuff like that. Okay, so almost all of January has this Mercury retrograde. You know, it doesn't ruin a month, but it makes it more challenging. Or it says, slow down, pay attention. And because Pluto is in that 90-degree aspect called square with Uranus, that means that Mercury, as it joins Pluto those 3 times, is also within days making a square to Uranus. And that's what brings the crazy part in. It's like, oh, okay, if we just had Mercury conjunct Pluto, great. We look at our shadow, we talk about our secrets, or we keep our secrets secret, whatever. We talk a lot about what's going on in the stock market, because that's probably going to be kind of a roller coaster too. So what else is new? But the crazy wild card factor is what comes in with Uranus, and that's what we're going to be watching out for. Another thing I noticed about January, even though Mercury goes direct on the 25th, there must be still some not such nice stuff going on because, you know, I rate the days, all of them, 1 through 5. 1s are the worst, 5s are the best. Not very many 5s, but there's a handful of them in 2016. But that last week of January, every single day is rated 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's not the worst of the worst, but there's nothing even, you know, above a 2 in the whole week. So I wouldn't say that's your best time for whatever your big plans are, okay? And speaking of doing your planning, it really is a good idea to have an idea when the Mercury retrogrades are during the year, because you'll want to try to get things done well ahead of that or wait until after it's over. And when I mean well ahead, I mean you don't come up to like 2 days before Mercury retrograde and think, oh, well, it's not retrograde yet. I can buy that new computer, or I can buy that new car now. I've done both, believe me. Backfire, not recommended. So you want to watch out for that. So the other Mercury retrogrades are going to be in the other Earth signs. We're going to have throughout almost all of May, and actually really from the 28th of April to the 22nd of May, Mercury backing up in the second half of, well, it's almost more the middle, it's in the second half, 14 to 23 and a half. So that's pretty much the middle degrees of Taurus. Then we get Virgo for our late summer retrograde, which is September. Well, starts the 30th of August, goes to the 22nd of September, which covers the equinox, which means we've got Mercury retrograde at the fall equinox. Now, a lot of times you'll hear me talk about Mercury retrograde and say things like, that means we experience things like, what was I thinking? And of course the fall is when we're going to have the election. But I have to say, the United States was born with Mercury retrograde, which we're dumb a lot of times, I do have to say. But that, I think, means that it's kind of like a double, and it almost like cancels each other out. Or it's not so bad as you might worry. If you natally have Mercury retrograde, when it comes along in the moving planets called the transits, then it's more in tune with your natural kind of backwards motion. And so it works well for you. All right, so we've got those about the Mercury retrogrades. And actually, we do have a 4th Mercury retrograde in calendar 2016 that crosses the line into 2017, and that starts the 19th of December of 2016. And I didn't even write down when it goes to, but it's early 2017. And that is mostly in Capricorn, the first half, and just a little smidge in Sagittarius. So from year to year, the Mercury retrogrades actually retrograde in the zodiac. And so a lot of times you'll have either a year that's all in one element or a transition year. And the transition years, it crosses from one element to the other. So it's all in Earth signs in 2016 with really not a transition till the very end. Now the Earth signs are in charge of everything practical, possessions, assets, finances, tangible things. It's a very physical type of element. Okay, so a lot of people may be kind of rethinking, what do they really need for their sustenance? What do they really want to maintain in their possession? You know, I'm getting to that sort of age like a lot of the baby boomers where we want to downsize. We want to get rid of all this stuff we've been accumulating for a lifetime. Problem is, nobody wants it. So we think, oh, I'll go to, eBay and sell this thing, and I'll list this beautiful vase for, $50. And other people are listing a similar vase for $50. And guess what? The last time somebody bought one, it was for $15. So we're not going to get what we think we're going to get. So you know, you kind of have to rethink your strategy about your material world with all of these Mercury retrogrades in the Earth signs. Now, Jupiter is in an Earth sign for the first 2/3, let's say, of 2016, and that's in Virgo. Jupiter, it's a big planet. It kind of wants to expand everything. Virgo is all about all the little details. So it means a myriad of little details. It's almost like too much information, too many things to deal with. There's a side of us that really wants to just kind of simplify. But Jupiter is saying, look at all the stuff you have to pay attention to. So, not so easy. And let's see. The nice thing is that Jupiter is in this third of the sky to Pluto. So that should help keep the market numbers up somewhat. Jupiter has a lot to do with optimism and hope. And we always talk about, you know, what is the consumer's optimism and things like that. And it has a lot to do with, you know, emotions drive the market. So, like I say, it should buoy things up, but I will say also that Virgo, this sign, is a highly skeptical sign, connecting to Capricorn, which is also very reality-based and doesn't want to just take anything on faith. And faith is all under question this year because the Saturn-Neptune. Neptune rules faith and Saturn rules reality and skepticism. So it is very much important how people are viewing our maybe long-term prospects for finances, and that's going to drive the market up or down, as it always does. Okay, so Saturn is going through Sagittarius all year long, and Jupiter's the ruler of Sag, and there will be points at which Jupiter is making a 90-degree with Sagittarius Saturn. So I think that's going to be some difficult times for this business about faith and trust versus, you know, show me, I'll believe it when I see it. And in a particularly important time, especially for anything Jupiter related, comes in around the full moon eclipse, and that's the 23rd of March. So that's very close to the spring equinox, and I think that's going to color the whole spring. So we kind of have mixed messages because Jupiter's doing a nice thing with Pluto and a tough thing with Saturn. And the good news is that Saturn and Pluto at that point are one sign apart, and that helps them work a little better. So overall, if I had to like tip the scale, I'd say it tips a little more towards positive than negative, but it certainly could be the roller coaster again. So get ready for that. We have no Venus retrograde in 2016. That seems to alternate years. But we're going to get a Mars retrograde, and that's going back and forth between late degrees of Scorpio, early degrees of Sagittarius, in the months primarily of May, most of June. From the middle of April to the end of June is the backup. And during that time, it's going to be, oh, it never does reach Saturn, so that's probably a good thing. The ancient astrologers called Mars and Saturn the malefics, the evildoers. They're tough planets. Of course, the ancients didn't know about Uranus and Pluto, or Eris, the new dwarf planet out past Pluto. But when we do have a team up of Mars and Saturn, it's usually not tremendously wonderful. So, you know, I did notice that Mars recently was across from Uranus, and that's one of the main sort of accident potential indicators. And there were so many sirens that day. I live on Park Road, and it's, you know, a main thoroughfare. And then accidents out on the highway and on the side streets, and everywhere I went, it was like crazy. So honestly, anytime you see Uranus and Mars linking up, watch out. And now, yes, I want to talk about Uranus for a minute. So it's getting into the higher degrees of Aries. And what's hanging out in Aries forever is Eris. I mean, honestly, forever. It entered Aries in like 1926, and it'll be there until like 2044 or 2048, you know, kind of in and out at the ends. So it's around 22 or 23 degrees at this point. Uranus is coming into the 22, 23 in 2016. So it's going to get together with Eris 3 times. The first time is June 9th. The second time is the 25th of September. And the third time will be in 2017 on St. Paddy's Day. Well, we have a fall equinox on the 21st or 2nd of September. And right around then we have a full moon? Nope. Not this year. I thought so. Wait a second. Nope. Okay. But, it's my little cheat sheet notes today. It's because it's at the fall equinox. It's enough of a trouble. And that's going to be crazy times. Okay, but here's what's interesting. I know there's something. It's the full moon. It's the full moon before the election. On 16th of October is at 23 of Aries. I knew there was something wacko with this. We always talk in elections about October surprise. I think this year the October surprise is going to be a doozy. And I got plenty to say about the election, but we're not going to worry about that today. When we get a little closer, we'll start taking a look at that. So, Eris is a goddess in mythology, and we find a lot of correlation between what's happening with Eris and what goes on with the women's movement or women's power, etc. So that's one thing that makes me think there's a very good chance that the woman's vote this year is going to be what really decides the election. I mean, people talk about the Latino vote or the black vote or the this vote and the that vote, but it's going to be the women's vote. You watch. All right. Now, the USA. Interesting year for us because we have a new moon on our birthday. And actually, it's one of the best new moons of the year. And I would say if you need to be planning for something, you know, your best pleasurable stuff for 2016, the month of July is probably your best month for that. And a new moon at anybody's birthday means a whole new period is being ushered in. So for the United States, it's really something major is going to be changing for us during the course of 2016 into 2017 in our birthday year. What else did I want to talk about here? Well, there are some times when we're going to have some very good planets in smooth combination with one another. And we've got that beginning part of July, very nice. July 4th, July 6th to the 8th, July 16th, 17th. So that's where I say July is one of your best times. A little later into that month, nope, still early in that month, another special pattern. Oddball times with strange twists that end up well. February, for a month starting on the 8th, around the 26th of February, March 3rd, around the 16th to the 19th of June, the 5th to the 7th of August, and August 18th. So try to do something special at around those times. I also was thinking about how people who have birthdays around the middle of the month, and especially if they are an Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, they're the ones that are really getting activated a lot by this crazy Uranus-Eris business. And, you know, in mythology, Eris was like the outcast, and Uranus can be a loner as well. And so if you fall into this category, realize that you may have a greater desire to do things on your own, be by yourself. Maybe if you're in a partnership, you need to say to your mate, you know, don't take this personally, but this is like a me year for myself. And so I'm going to be doing more things that I want to do, or I'm going to be spending more time by myself, and it's not a personal reflection on you or our relationship. Or maybe you're going to have to, you know, compromise and negotiate and work that out a little bit. Let's see. What else? Well, our eclipses are primarily in Pisces and Virgo. There's one of them that is in Libra. That's the March 23rd. So for Pisces people and Virgo people, eclipses bring big changes. Well, already, if you're a Pisces, you've been having Chiron go through your sign for some years now. And Chiron is called the wounded healer. It wants to expose the weak links so that we can shore them up. But usually it brings some kind of difficulty before it brings the healing. Then Neptune, ruler of Pisces, going through Pisces since 2012. There's actually a great show in the West Hartford Community Television archives about Pisces and Neptune. And I think that that was our first show we did with the green screen, so that's exciting to go back and look at. But for Pisces people, it's almost like too much. It's a flood of everything Pisces, which is emotions, fantasies, imagination, could be creativity. It's great for all of the arts and entertainment kind of stuff, but there's an escapist side to it. So when we say, okay, you're a Pisces, your ruling planet is Neptune, you'd like to run away from the things you don't want to face, and here comes this square from Saturn, and it says, slap you upside your head with, here's a big old fat dose of reality. And reality, sometimes it bites. So are the Pisces going to like burrow further into their hiding place, or are they going to kind of work on growing their spines, because Saturn rules the skeletal system, and become stronger, or face the hard music and find out, wow, I can even dance to the hard music. That's a beautiful thing. So I think it's a very challenging year for the Pisces people. Mixed for Sagittarius, fairly good for Capricorn. But really, if I had to pick my favorites, I think the lucky ones are Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. So I'll just mention Hillary, of course, is a Scorpio. Trump, he's a Gemini, but he's got Leo rising. So they are each having very good experiences. And we can see that. I would be probably inclined to verify that they'll get the nominations. Well, that was kind of hedged. Probably inclined to verify. Okay, so we're coming down to our last minute, and I think what I want to recommend for you is your New Year's resolutions. You're probably going to revise them a few times during that early Mercury retrograde. And oh yeah, Jupiter turns retrograde within 2 days of Mercury, so there's just kind of like too many things to handle and deal with. And give yourself some space, relax, and remember it's going to be up and down, and kind of like how Charles Dickens said, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So you just go out there and try to have your best times, and we'll see you in 2017 for looking up, 2016 for looking up.